Hello, my name is Carlos Espinal, and this semester taking public speaking allowed me to learn some new skills in public speaking and also helped me to gain confidence in the skills that I already had. My strongest presentation this semester, I feel, was my story speech because I was able to keep the audience's attention the best, partly due to the fact that I could speak from experience and also because of the story format itself allowed for better mental visualization for the audience and entertain the audience a lot better. The conversational tone that I learned to use in the class also helped engage the audience and made the speech relatable. Out of my peers, I felt that Brian Kodal did the best with his story speech because he was able to paint a very good mental picture by describing the environment that he was in his story. And for example, the clouds in the distance that he described as the storm was swelling and the choppy waves as well. He was able to build suspense, and he does a very good job of explaining how the storm builds and describing his emotions. I thought that was very compelling. In chapter 14 of the textbook, it explains extemporaneous speech and how a conversational tone should be used. Again, making the story relatable and entertaining. Brian did a really good job of this. His body language was also excellent. He occasionally glances at his notes but doesn't really stare at them the whole time, and also he has very good hand gestures and maintains good eye contact with the audience. So for my story speech, I used an organizational pattern called a chronological pattern, which arranges the speech according to time, what happened first, second, and then third. This benefited my story because it allowed me to give background at the beginning and then give the story itself a sequence of beginning, middle, and end. The organizational pattern also taught me various ways of presenting information. The organizational patterns in this course taught me various ways of presenting information depending on the context of the information itself. So for my first informative speech, I used a method of informing called descriptive speech, which basically is just an oral presentation describing a person, place, or thing. The spatial pattern, the pattern of organization that I used was called spatial pattern organization. Basically, I was able to start on the outside of the Svalbard vault near Iceland and work my way in past the door, through the tunnel, and eventually into the actual vault itself. This way I was able to describe the entire facility from outside inward. For my persuasive speech, I used Monroe's motivated sequence pattern, which is explained on pages 301 through 302 in the textbook. Basically, steps to persuade a listener to accept the speaker's position or persuade them. This allows the first step allows to grab the audience's attention. I used energy and enthusiasm and also sympathy in my speech to grab the audience's attention. For example, a quote from my speech is, "By the end of my speech, 5 children will have died from malaria." This uses sympathy as a motive for grabbing the audience's attention. The second step in Monroe's motivated sequence is the need, or describing the problem. So you describe the facts to prove your point. You use studies to back the evidence, and then you explain the evidence, how the evidence relates to the problem itself. Step 3 is satisfaction, which satisfies the need or presents a solution to your audience. This gives the audience relief and also instructs on how the audience can help. A quote from my speech is, "You can save a life from donating $10 to Nothing But Net," which is an organization that helps families in Africa. For step 4, it's called visualization, where you paint a picture of the results. Basically, action from your audience will yield good results. Inaction from your audience will yield negative results. And the 5th and final step in Monroe's sequence is action, where you request action from your audience. In my speech, I requested action for my audience by asking them to donate money to Nothing But Nets. Other techniques that I also used in my persuasive speech, I passed around flyers that explained the logistical process of Nothing But Net, which added to the legitimacy of my presentation, further informed my audience, and provided further persuasion even after the speech was over. Additional techniques that I learned from the textbook that I applied in my last speech, for example, eye contact, which helps make a connection between the speaker and the audience. I used this in my last speech, again, to stir emotion and to further persuade. And organization was another technique that the textbook helped me with. Again, referring to Monroe's motivated sequence to organize my speech. I think the audience responded well according to their body language. And I was also taught how to use an outline with an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. Improvement throughout my course was steady, I feel. Beginning with the outline itself, outlined or explained in chapter 12 of the textbook, specifying purpose and central idea. Specifying purpose and central idea helped me maintain my focus, and putting a conclusion at the end of my outline allowed me to wrap up my speeches a lot better. And projection is explained in page 258. The feedback that I got from the professor helped to point out weaknesses in the projection of my voice, which I later corrected and yielded good results because I was able to be heard a lot better in my final speeches. Things I could have done better, using less filter words like and like I'm probably using in this speech. I could have done that a lot better. I'm still practicing on that. Making better eye contact and not looking at my notes as much, and also less visual frustration from difficult pronunciation, also something I'm still working on. So finally, some future goals. Professionally, I'd like to finish my civil engineering degree to become an environmental engineer, helping to decrease water waste in urban areas and contribute to making cities more sustainable, potentially get a law degree and run for public office. Personal goals include getting a pilot's license, learning various languages including German, French, and Chinese, and own property on every continent. That way I can travel. Possible future presentations that I might have to give would be announcing a new breakthrough in water conservation and heuristic value that this class has. This class enables people to speak their mind in an articulate and organized manner by providing them with the first-hand experience necessary to practice public speaking and develop the skills they need. Finally, how can this course help to improve public speaking opportunities? I believe that having taken this course will provide the students with more opportunities for employment where proficiency in public speaking is a necessary skill. Thank you very much.